Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel and our 64th coffee stream. Skep Talk and I are back to discuss some news and some, as the title of the stream promises, if you guys weren't watching Minions of the Zoo last night, I had some blindy drama. And I actually didn't tell everybody. I didn't tell the whole thing last night. So there's some extra drama stuff. So long story short, just so I don't rehash everything, I'm part of a blind parenting, specifically blind mothers group on WhatsApp. I know WhatsApp is cancer, but hey, blind people tend to like to talk to each other in audio format. So there were some accusations spread that a member was lurking and then posting what was said in private in public. Now, the accuser actually turned out to be the crazy lady who was making up things about the members. In particular, she said that a particular member's husband was beating her, that they were neglecting their children. Like stuff that can get their children taken away if heard by the wrong person in any circumstance, but especially when it comes to blind people. We get scrutinized a lot closer by authorities when it comes to kids. So that's particularly dangerous stuff that she was playing with. Come to find out, she and the person that she accused of being just as horrible are still friends. So I'm trying to figure out if there was some sort of collusion going on between the two of them. Because if I were the original person who had been accused, I would want that person as far away from me as possible. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't want to join another parenting group with this person who is willing to lie about such dangerous accusations. Like I said, blind people get scrutinized, especially in the States, very closely by Child Protective Services, especially. And if the wrong person comes across these stories, there's some horrible repercussions going on.
This is Skep Talk, by the way, the sidekick on the show. Do you think that there are people who are trolling social media to look for reports of stuff like this?
In this day and age, it wouldn't surprise me anymore.
If you've ever known some of the people who tend to work for places like social services, and at one point, I thought that my career was leading me to do that for a living. When I was a senior in college, majoring in anthropology, one of the major career possibilities for you, because they always need people for this because there's such a burnout factor in it, is going and getting a master's in social work and becoming a social worker. So I spent a year doing casework in the West Side ghettos of Chicago.
Oh, God.
Spent half a year on foster care and half a year on child abuse. Now, it doesn't make me an expert on either one, but I did a lot of casework on this. And I got to know several social workers very well, and a lot of social workers a little bit, and also fellow caseworkers. You know, people who did casework. You know, you don't get paid for this when you're taking courses at Northwestern to do this. It's unpaid slave labor, basically.
Right.
Well, you know, my job was to take the train into the ghetto, basically, get off, find the address, go up the 7-story walk up because the elevator stopped working 15 years ago in the vertical ghettos. They have vertical ghettos in Chicago. And so, and I'm serious, you literally have to walk up like 10 flights of stairs. That's what these people do every day, all the time. Children do it. And you would not believe what these stairwells smell like. They're full of garbage and stuff that comes out of people.
Yeah.
So you go up there and you knock on the door where there's loud music playing. Just 100% chance there's loud music playing. You go into the shabby fire trap and interview the woman and the kid, and you're interviewing the woman, but you're doing a visual on the kid.
Yeah.
You're looking for a change in gait, meaning the way they walk. You're going down their limbs and see if there's anything that looks deformed or the wrong way. This didn't happen to me, but one of my fellow caseworkers came across a kid with an untreated broken arm. It was still broken.
Oh my God.
Now, many, I don't know if I would say most, but many, maybe 30, 40% of my customers, the mom's a hooker. Yeah. Mom's a hooker with, a cocaine or heroin habit. And the heroines were, God, heroin is just a devastating drug. Yeah. I mean, people just devastate their lives with that. And she goes through a string of boyfriends, okay, or pimps, or both. And the boyfriend wants to fool around with mom. The kid is hungry and cries all the time. So the boyfriend hurts the kid, gets mad, slams the kid around until the kid,
shuts up.
And some of these kids were almost catatonic.
Yeah.
So that was what I got to do for half a year. That's what frightened me out of the social work business. I see what burned people out. I saw what, that drove me to the enlistment station, that drove me to the Navy, and my 5 years there, which prepared me to actually do something for, I got an interesting education at Northwestern. It was a great liberal arts education, including science. I had a strong background in chemistry. Had a minor in chemistry, and took math, science, English, history, art appreciation. Believe it or not, it's harder than you think. That was one of the courses I enjoyed the most, and it was one of the hardest ones that I took. Biology, just physiology, vertebrate endocrinology, just all kinds of interesting courses that I took. Classical Greek philosophy, modern philosophy, political systems of everywhere from Africa to Russia, China to the United States, U.S. history. Yeah, I just filled and years of English and English literature just filled my schedule with that stuff. It's great, but it doesn't prepare you, to go out and do something for a living.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, I digress so much.
It drives me crazy when I see blind people doing this to each other. Like it drives me crazy when I see anyone doing this kind of stuff. But
when it's your community eating itself.
Yeah, it's such a small community that people from different countries will hear blind people's names and go, "Oh, is that so and so from somewhere?" Like this is how small.
How many blind people? What's the blind census in Canada?
I honestly don't know. It's not that big. It's growing. Big. It's growing because of seniors who are losing their vision. But the amount of young blind people is not it's not that large. And it's like I said before, we are
80,000.
80,000. There you go. 80,000 blind people out of 35 million.
Yeah. Okay.
People
So
in total.
basically 100,000.
In a very small city.
Right.
You could populate a very small city with, like, the population of my region is, if you put because our region is 3 cities. If you put those populations together, you have 750,000 people.
Right.
So the amount of blind people in Canada won't even populate one of the 3 cities in my region.
Right. In the United States, we have 10 million blind people, and by far most are seniors.
Yeah.
For the reason that you're talking about, and with the boomers, getting older and diabetic retinopathy.
Yeah.
It's just a scourge.
Yeah.
Especially in a population that tends to be overweight anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, there was actually a story about this. Where did I see it? Oh, was it the National Post? Yeah, blindness on the rise in Canada. According to experts across the country, blindness and vision loss are quickly increasing in Canada, so much that we're on the verge of a national vision loss epidemic. Unless Canadians take action, the problem will get worse. Okay. It's the perfect storm of vision loss, says Keith Gordon, Vice President of Research at CNIB, a charity which provides emotional and practical support to people who are blind or partially sighted. Are you familiar with them?
Yes, they are a federally. What they've done is they've made 3 branches. They used to just be one charitable organization that tried to do everything that they do.
Yes.
But now they have split into 3 branches. They've kept the CNIB name, and the main CNIB branch is the charity.
Okay.
And that branch is also in charge of the brand new guide dog school that they've started.
Well, this guy Keith Gordon says, because of our aging population, or actually he probably says, hey, because of our aging population, and the fact that most of our major eye diseases are age-related, okay? So, like, more Canadians are losing their vision today than ever. It's a bad thing.
He's Bob or Doug McKenzie.
Right. Yeah, that's Americans' vision of what Canadians sound like. So, take off.
That's why Della talks the way he does on purpose, because he knows.
Don't make fun of my tooth, eh? So, but it says, in fact, this is interesting because you have 80,000 Canadians who are blind. I mean, blind like you are.
Yeah.
No sight. But a total of 1 million have what they call visual impairment.
Yes.
To where you are, it's either Coke bottle glasses to see, or can't see to the point of not being able to drive even with corrective lenses. So it says another factor in the vision loss is the steady rise in diabetes, which is kind of what I was talking about, which has led to an increase in cases of diabetic retinopathy. I promise you, I have not looked at this article before. I was remembering something that I read a long time ago. One of the most widespread and serious eye diseases in the country, right? And so, anyway, he talks about the fact that 75% of it can be prevented, and then the article seems to turn into a thing: regular eye exams and don't get fat. Okay, which that's good stuff for anybody.
You know what's some other good advice too? When you're told to wear glasses, because I used to get so mad at this.
What's that?
People going, I have to wear glasses and I don't want to because they make me look stupid.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I lost my shit on
Mhm.
a class member in
Mhm.
high school
Mhm.
because they had spent a week straight bitching that they had to wear glasses.
Yeah.
And I finally, on like the last,
You
I
just
think the
unloaded
last
on them.
day, I was like, listen, I wish that I had the option to bitch that the things that helped me see made me look stupid. You
Yeah.
ungrateful fucking idiot.
Well, let me say this about that. First of all, glasses don't make you look stupid. Okay. Usually people who look stupid are doing other things wrong. Truly.
Exactly.
It's absolutely true. Um, and, another thing is that glasses now can be made so beautifully and inexpensively that you don't have to have ugly looking glasses anymore. No, nobody has to have that unless you're in the military. So I more on that later. I don't know if we've ever discussed this. Do you know that I have had 5 eye surgeries?
No.
Yeah, yeah. I was born with people say, well, I have an astigmatism,
Mm.
and I have to wear glasses. Okay, I was born with a devastating astigmatism in my left eye and a bad astigmatism in my right eye.
Mm.
So I could see well enough far away. I could see things far away with my right eye. My left eye could only see blurry stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so everything was mush. I couldn't see out of my left eye, and they were beginning to think when I was 4 years old that, and I was in kindergarten. They thought that there was something wrong with me. At
Mm.
first, they thought I had a hearing problem. It's funny what people who are visually impaired get diagnosed with.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the hearing test that they gave me, and my mom was really happy after the hearing test because it showed that my hearing was normal. But they still had not clued in, and then I got to first grade, and that's the first place that a teacher was writing stuff on the blackboard.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first couple of days, I remember there was a big hoo-ha-ha because I just was not doing anything. We were supposed to draw stuff, draw this on your sheet of paper, and draw something that looks like this.
Mm.
I couldn't see anything. The principal got involved. I thought I was in trouble, but
Yeah.
then they kept reassuring me, no, everything's okay. Everything's okay. And they said, we're going to take you to see a doctor. And they took me to an eye doctor.
Mm.
They took me to an optometrist, actually. And he gave me a vision check. And it turned out that I needed a Coke bottle correction in my left eye.
Oh,
I
wow.
needed a very serious big lens in my left eye and a pretty serious correction in my right eye to see, but it would correct to 20/20. And so I got these glasses. Blind, my world changed. My world came alive. And that was when I began to read. And
Yeah.
I mean, I got serious about reading. I learned the alphabet so fast. I learned the alphabet in like a week, and I was making all the sounds that my dad and mom were teaching me at home because they weren't going fast enough for me in
Mm-hmm.
school. By the time I was in 4th grade, I read Moby Dick in the original.
Yeah.
And, I was reading serious stuff already. I remember I read Great Expectations when I was in 6th grade and fell in love with the book then. My mother was sort of horrified that I had read it. My father said, no, it's good. Don't worry about that. He's got to learn about that stuff anyway. And
Great Expectations was nothing.
well, it wasn't that it was dirty, but it had adult themes in it.
Yeah,
about romance and falling in love. And mom was all about let the kid be a kid. So, because there was, believe it or not, this is how weird educators can be. I was diagnosed as being smart, possibly a genius, and I evidently scored very high on an IQ test once I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always pressure on me to go to special schools, and my mother insisted, no, let him be a kid. He gets a normal childhood. He gets all his years of childhood. You are not going to make this kid a freak. And this was from a woman who was taught to be a piano virtuoso. By the time she was 11, she could play all of Mozart's sonatas.
Wow.
And most of Beethoven's. Yeah. And was traipsed all over Texas and the Southwest as the little girl who could play the piano, the amazing little girl who could play the piano. And she said, that is not going to happen to my kid. Not going to happen. And there you go. Well, but anyway.
My piano teacher actually had to make my mom take me out of lessons because I got to grade 8 piano.
Okay.
And I was dealing with like my stepfather leaving. Yeah. And having to basically step up and become my sister's second mom.
Yeah, right.
And I was severely depressed. And I was not enjoying anything.
Yeah.
I lost the joy for playing, and I wasn't practicing.
Yeah.
And my piano teacher was like, well, what's wrong? And I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. Yeah. But mom won't listen to me.
Yeah.
Because she was stuck on but you're so good.
Right.
But you're so good. And I don't think she understood the severity of the depression that I was going through, because it was always, oh, you're just being a melodramatic teenager.
Right.
You don't, like, you're not.
It's easy to miss that, in fairness.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is easy.
It is a time of drama.
It is a very big time of drama. But like I would try and talk about it and try and voice it. Yeah. And she wouldn't want to hear it.
Right.
It didn't dawn on her until I moved out. And I actually had to commit myself into the mental ward.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had to commit myself at 18. Because it just wasn't going well for me. And a lot of that, strangely enough, has to do with the chemical imbalance that blindness has caused. The circadian rhythm.
Oh, sure.
The lack of
no day-night cycle for you.
Yeah, there is no day-night cycle. And it really, a lot of blind people suffer from insomnia, depression, or both.
Yeah. And that's something that, I mean, in our society, there's enough leisure time. I'm pretty convinced that having leisure time can lead to depression.
Yeah, if you have too much time on your hands,
yeah,
you have time to think.
Exactly. And if you're not, if there's something on your mind, it can become bigger than life. Little things can, begin to mean more to you. And as you kind of worry at it, it gets worse and worse and more irritated. It's almost like a sore on the body. Mm-hmm. And you can't leave it alone and let it heal. It's interesting. I'm like Captain Digression this morning. I have to tell you that the thought that just came into my head. One of my favorite recording artists is a lady. Her name is Adrienne McKenna. She records under the name Adron, Adron, and she wrote a song about scabs. Now you might think, a song about scabs, okay? But what it was it was really about her relationship with her ex,
Mm.
and she keeps going back to him, and that's still happening. That they're still getting together and splitting, and then getting together and splitting. And it's called Bloody Things,
Mm-hmm.
and she compares the relationship to what what it's like to have a sore heal on the body. And it's a beautiful, beautiful song. You wouldn't think a song about that would be beautiful. And of course, her guitar playing is phenomenal. I mean, she's international level jazz guitarist, and her singing is, she sings like a nightingale, just a beautiful, beautiful voice. So yeah, it's called Bloody Things. I would recommend. I'm not selling. I'm not getting paid for this, but Adron, Adron, is really worth listening to. What it's this kind of Brazilian tropicalia
Oh, cool.
jazz fusion sound, and she's absolutely awesome. And she also did a cover of the Universe song, of Eric Idle's Universe song,
No way.
with Blair Crimmin. Yeah, Blair Crimmin and the Hookers, and that's awesome too. So anyway, that's Blair Crimmin and Adron. And sometimes when she goes out on tour, that's the band who backs her.
Oh, okay.
Is the Hookers. So anyway, digress. Flight of ideas.
Hawk Silk says too many people. Not enough people stop and think, in my opinion. So always something to distract them. I think
right.
Either in this society, we have lost the ability to find middle ground. I think in this society, because either we are go 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 all the time and run ourselves to the bone, or we sit there and wallow in every little bad thing that's ever happened.
Why do you think we do that?
I don't know, because in past generations we've always had something to do, like
right.
Even during the Great Depression, yes, there was, like, if you listen to music and culture and stuff, it was rough times.
But people had too much leisure time.
But they tried to find ways to make them, like, they still tried to find things to do.
Right.
Back then.
Yeah.
I almost, it's very strange, because technology has been an awesome thing for us and a curse for us, because it's opened up information to us a lot more. It's it's made certain groups of people's lives a hell of a lot easier. To take mine, for example.
Right.
But at the same time, we are dependent on it to a fault, almost.
We are. And one of the things that I don't think it's a bad thing that we're not all self-sufficient hunter-gatherers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The disaster preppers, the apocalypse preppers, and so forth, all take the attitude that, hey, the shit's all going to come down. It's going to be every man for himself. It's going to be Mad Max and Thunderdome, and it's going to be warlords with groups of people going out and raiding other warlords and taking their stuff, and cannibalism and blah blah blah. I don't think that it's wrong to be dependent upon society, dependent upon the existence of a supermarket to go down and get your food, dependence upon an economy to provide a job for you so that you can earn money to buy the food, to be dependent upon the government to provide services in case you're not able to provide for yourself. so that you can, continue to live. That's a good thing. Those are good things that have been built up. Our problem is that there are groups of people in the world who want to take that away from us, or who simply want us not to have that anymore because they don't have that, or for whatever reason, or they're under the thrall of a religion, of a religious belief that says that is evil, that is against God's will. In their fantastical universe, they have to have courts that basically enslave women and also enslave men. As long as we're talking about Islam, fundamentalist Islam, that's as much an enslavement of men as it is of women. You're basically constantly being judged, and the slightest violation leads to, and in my opinion, an overreaction. Cutting somebody's hand off for stealing something, that may be biblical and everything, but I don't think it's the right thing to do. You try and figure out what's wrong with that person and make them better. And if they just, if they have to be separated from society, you separate them from society. But, I hope we've grown enough to treat one another humanely, kind of like in the ending of that, the Gorn episode from the original series with, the Metrons come. Mercy, Captain. Very good. There's hope for your species.
Mm-hmm.
And if we've done that, I don't think it's a bad thing to be dependent upon those good things that society has built up, but we have to be responsible about protecting them.
Yeah.
Okay. And that means not inviting 200,000 migrants who want to take your stuff away from you and enslave you. Don't invite them into your country. Don't do that. That's a bad thing. Let them stay wherever the hell they are and figure out that that's a crummy way to live. Or stay and fester and live the way they're going to live. But screw them until they're ready to, abide by the cultural norms that you've established in your society. And that's where, like, Ocasio-Cortez and these open border clowns, I can't understand the rampant lack of self-regard, or lack of regard for the safety of the country that true open borders would cause.
And the lack of care for the vulnerable populations of your country.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the Quran and you look at the attitude of fundamental Islam towards, say, disabled people.
Yes.
Or gay people.
Yeah.
Or Jewish people. All three of which we all have in our countries. And it's perfectly okay to be gay or disabled or Jewish here. But the minute you let people who fundamentally believe and live by rules of life that are diametrically opposed to yours, and they absolutely, it's like inviting a guest into your home and you find out that your guest enjoys, who your guest believes that it's all right to be a nudist in someone else's home. So they come in, they take off their clothes, they proceed to sit on your couch. Oh, by the way, they're also one of those and I just, nudity is being a nudist is fine. Just don't do it in someone else's home. Right. Do it where you belong, in your home.
Yes.
If you feel that you don't want to change your lifestyle in public to fit the place that you are moving to, like if someone from Canada, say, decided I have no idea why, to move to Saudi Arabia, for example, Do you think for any second that the Saudis would be like, oh, yes, you may continue your Canadian culture here? Fuck no. Absolutely not. That would not be allowed. So why do we need to bend the knee to people who are coming here supposedly for help?
Yes.
But, generally when you need help, you don't look the gift horse in the mouth and then come and demand how they will help you.
Absolutely. That's there's an old saying, if you invite a cannibal to dinner, don't object when they start eating the guests.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of I admire what's behind it. The idea of helping a group of people who clearly need help, but the giving them stuff. Yeah, giving a hungry man food is the easy way to help him, and there's a certain amount of that that's appropriate. You don't want him to starve, but what you really need him to do is find a way for him to procure his own food, so you don't have to give him food all the time. But if somebody comes in and they think so little of you that they think it's their right to steal the food from you, that's a problem. And that's really the problem in inviting members of certain religions in. If they come in and they think that people who are not part of that religion are less than, or scum, can be stolen from, the women can be raped because they're garbage, they're dogs, they're pigs. And that's what certain religions, I won't mention any names here, tend to think about people who are not members of their religion, and they are less than, and they come in and they act on that belief. It's one thing to believe that. That's there's nothing wrong with that. That's free speech. Believe any of the insane shit you want to believe.
Yeah.
But to come in and act on that can be devastating to a society. It's just absolutely wrong.
W.R. Costin says, this is what pisses me off about Trudeau's immigration policies. We let so many people in that we're unable to evaluate their fitness to be here. Yes. Yes, yep. That's exactly what's happening.
Yep. In fact, he's doing a stream at 2 p.m. And reading the Safe Third Country Agreement. And it's worth tuning in on. That's W.R. Costin.
Yeah.
And that's on his channel, I believe, just the W.R. Costin channel. Worth tuning into, one of our friends. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, blah, 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 blah.
I've got a bit of a funny story.
Please do. We need some fun. I want to be happy again.
Okay, so in my region, last year, before marijuana was legalized, there was some dumbass who decided that he was upset that the police confiscated his bong and marijuana that he was smoking in public.
Okay.
So he decided, he got arrested for it and everything. He claims that he was smoking outside of a hospital and that he had paperwork to prove that he had a medical marijuana thing. Like, he's claiming that he had medical marijuana and the police still arrested him and took it. Okay. But he was smoking his bong in public.
It's probably not wise.
No, and before it was legal. So his idea last year was to go to the courthouse where his case had been heard.
Yeah.
And smoke a different bong in his underwear. Literally just standing out there in his underwear, smoking a bong with a sign that says, "Return my bong."
You got to kind of admire the chutzpah, don't you?
Oh, it gets better.
Oh, really?
As of yesterday, this intrepid young man is suing the police department for $3 million for wrongfully handling his case.
The wrong bong handled. Oh,
Yeah.
that is so funny. That is so funny. So who is this intrepid explorer?
And Pincalo said it wasn't a little bong either. It was like 1.5 feet tall. So
What city is this in?
So this is in Waterloo region.
Okay, so it's around Ontario.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That you know there are people who just think differently than I do, I guess.
And I quote tweeted the story and I said the 30% is at it again, because Pincalo actually had this idea, and I agree with him, that 70% of pot smokers are what you would call the functional one. Probably most of them you probably wouldn't even know smoked unless they said
that's
something.
absolutely right. Absolutely right.
The 30% are the morons, like this idiot, that now that pot's legal, they think that it's going to be cool that they can just take their bong to the park and smoke in the park. And like, those are the people that the anti-pot people tend to lump in with everyone and say that
For sure.
all stoners are lazy. All stoners just want to just sit there and smoke and do nothing. Oh yeah, this guy, Pincalo just reminded me. This guy ran for city council 3 months ago.
Nuh-uh.
Mm.
He did not. I'm liking him better and better by the moment. I just love the attitude mostly. I mean, obviously he's irresponsible fool, and I think it's probably fair to speculate he may not have it all together upstairs.
No, I would agree.
There might be a few toys in that attic, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And but that said, it is the old hysteria about reefer madness has never completely gone away.
Nope. My grandfather is the Reefer Madness generation, and
Yes.
because he was born in 42.
Okay, sure.
So I've actually had conversations with him at our family cottage where I'll be smoking with him and he'll be drinking.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, "Aren't you worried that you're going to start doing harder drugs?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like,
No.
"Grandpa, if
That's reefer madness."
I'm sitting there going, any heroin addict will tell you that they didn't start heroin because they were smoking pot.
Exactly.
Most heroin addicts will tell you I was having a drink first.
That's true. That's God's truth.
And they will also say, it's not pot's fault. It's not alcohol's fault. I was going to do it anyway. It was my choice to do. Like the addicts that actually want to recover will say it was my choice. It wasn't.
No.
It wasn't because I was drunk. It wasn't because I was high on something else. I put the needle in my arm.
Right.
Like, it's ridiculous. To think that a plant, opium's a plant, but you have to refine it, right? To get the heroin, to get the morphine, you have to refine the poppy.
Yeah, you do. It's actually quite a considerable process that you go through to obtain heroin out of poppies. I mean, that's a very purposeful thing that you do in order to do that. But it's kind of like with painkillers. People, the United States has reacted to what they call the opioid crisis, and what I call opium or opioid hysteria, with the reaction that we have to make it harder for pain patients to get their medicine. We're going to restrict doctors' ability to write opioids for pain, and you have some really irresponsible stuff said, on in the media about well, morphine's been proved not to alleviate pain. Really? Seriously?
Yeah.
That's bullshit. It does alleviate pain. Well, morphine's not really effective long term. Yes, it is. Many thousands of people have been, millions really of people have been helped with either morphine, hydrocodone, those kinds of things. The problem is that it is used recreationally. It's misused.
Yes.
And those people overdose. If you look at the statistics, pain patients who are being prescribed fentanyl or morphine or hydrocodone or oxycodone, they don't overdose. Did you know that? But if you just listen to the media, you'd think they do. You'd think that's the big problem. It's those pain patients are overdosing. No, they almost never overdose. They almost never commit suicide. Pain suicides were very low. But now pain suicides are going up. You know why? Because you go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, I'm going to write you some Cymbalta because that's better for pain. I'm required to say by a law that it's better for pain than morphine. Okay. I'm not allowed. Yeah, Cymbalta, which is an SSRI.
Yeah.
Or it's an SNRI. It's an SNRI. It's a serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. And so what you're saying is basically we're going to treat you for depression because you have pain. Well, you might be depressed because you have pain, but it's because you have pain.
Yeah.
Every day is depressing. You hurt all the time. And Texas came desperately close to passing a law, or for a law to actually come to the floor of the vote. It never came to the floor of the Texas legislature for a vote, thank God, of making it illegal to treat pain with any narcotic at all.
Oh, God damn.
They were talking about doing appendectomies, strapping people down and doing them conscious.
Jesus Christ.
We're really going to take a hardcore look at this. These are Baptists get a hold of, the insane nutcases. And fortunately, it didn't come down. But that is the attitude in Texas towards narcotics, towards painkillers, everything else. Can you imagine having a child in a burn center and debriding their burn? If you know what that is, it basically is cleaning their wounds and changing the dressing and so forth in a burn center. And that kid, they scream and scream and scream. I've been in burn wards. I've seen this done. They scream until they can't scream, and then they make this gasping sound, and they're completely unresponsive. And the only thing that will help them is the technician or the nurse will take a syringe full of morphine, shove it in their thigh or in their glute, and you can see them relax. You can see them relax as the pain is ameliorated. And I've seen this with my own eyes. I hate this opioid hysteria. I kill it with fire. Kill it with fucking fire. It's being caused by statistics that are being purposely jacked up. Okay. But if a person overdoses on drugs and they have even a trace of morphine in them, even if they drank themselves to death and crashed their car into a bridge, it's considered an opioid-related death. That's what's going into the statistics right now. If they had a trace, if hair examination shows that they did an opioid in the last 6 months, it's considered opioid-related death.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just, it's bullshit. The insane people have taken over the statistics in the media in the world, and I think I understand what's going on as a part of that mental process. Try this theory out. You know, when somebody does something to you, something bad to you, drivers know, when somebody cuts them off, for example, that rush of adrenaline, that anger flushes your face, or somebody shoves you, or somebody says something really ugly to you, that rush of adrenaline, that fight or flight thing that happens, it makes your face feel hot, your ears burn, and you react back to that. Well, there's kind of a slower version of that happens when people decide that some social justice issue, some social wrong is being done, and it turns them into a social justice warrior on that issue. And they want to overcorrect. The instinct is to overcorrect. The person who cuts you off in traffic, you want to take a gun out and shoot them. Really? You're going to shoot that person because they cut you off in traffic? But that's how mad you get.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something similar happens to the social justice warriors. They overreact. It's like kill it with fire. They see some white men getting ahead, and all of a sudden they make this huge construction of something called patriarchy that doesn't even exist. And ask some unemployed drug addict in West Virginia how he's enjoying how those fat patriarchy checks are doing for him. There's stuff that people talk about as though it exists, and it doesn't exist.
No.
There's no such thing as patriarchy. There's no such thing. Privilege, there's no such thing. Wage gap, no such thing. But people are lobbying for resources to be divided up on the basis of the existence of these mythical things. And I think it's because they overreact. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, Pincalo says, we know all about the blanket statistics. In Ontario, I'm pretty sure they changed everything to impaired driving. So they don't classify what you were on.
He says, so now there's no separation of the end of what driving charge that was drunk driving, or drug driving. Yeah. Either way, it's all
impaired driving now.
Yeah, it's all impaired driving. And that's when governments do a bad job of that kind of that kind of classification, people who shouldn't suffer.
It's true.
So,
anyway, I almost got now that pot's legal, that this isn't going to be an issue, but I was trying to ask in a private lactation consultation when I had my first son, what it would be like, the safety of smoking and breastfeeding, because in a public lactation consultation, somebody asked about drinking and breastfeeding, and nobody batted an eye. So I asked in a private, or it was either me or Pincalo who asked. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And a couple days later, Family and Children's Services calls me.
What?
They want to come do a home study because they're concerned about marijuana use around the baby.
Really?
And I flat out told them that they were not welcome in the home unless, because we were living with my mother at the time. And I said, you are not coming in this house unless my husband and mother are present, and they work. So you can come after 5:00. And they said, well, we don't do that. We don't do home visits in the evening. And I know that's a bold-faced lie, because my father and ex-stepmother were foster parents for a decade. I know exactly how this system works.
If you've ever been in a foster care situation, you know what the deal is.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
So I flat out said, you are lying.
Good for you.
I said, you can either come to the house after 5, or you can close my file and never call me again. So they closed my file and they never called me again.
Good. Excellent. You scared away the sad little cretin.
Well, they wanted to come when it was just me and the baby, and I was still like in the postpartum period. I was having anxiety and all that stuff. I'm like, you're not coming here.
Yeah. Good for you. I'm glad you stood up for, what you felt like was the right thing. It's all people ever really should do anyway. It's really pretty easy. It's kind of wonderful to stand up for your rights and be vindicated like that.
Well, I was especially worried about that particular thing because they didn't want me, like the nurses were telling me, you can't go home unless your son starts taking the breast properly, which
really
is not something you hear. My mother had trouble.
Was your son not feeding correctly?
No, he wasn't. But the thing is, when my mom had my sister, she wasn't either. And nothing was mentioned about, they were in the hospital for 3 or 4 days because they both had a fever when she was born. So they wanted to
because you're blind.
Yeah, but because I was blind, within
there's really no other way for her to feed those kids.
Oh, well, get this. Within 24 hours of Alex's birth, I had a lactation consultant coming and telling me, when you go home and can't breastfeed, you're switching to formula, right?
And you explain, no. My religion says that the baby has to starve then. So we'll be starving the baby.
No, I told her, I said, if he won't take the breast, I'm going to pump breast milk and bottle feed him the breast milk. Either way.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I see what you're saying. Okay. I'm cracking now.
Because I was, and my mom had to pull the lady aside in the hallway. Because again, they did this when nobody else was there. When none of my family was around.
Right.
She pulled the woman aside and she goes, think about this for a second. Would you like to try and measure out the correct amount of formula at 2 o'clock in the morning when you can't see what you're doing and your baby wants its bottle 5 minutes ago?
Yep.
And the woman's like, oh, yeah, I guess that would be a lot more difficult than breastfeeding. And Mom's like, you think? You're a lactation consultant? Are you sure?
Yeah. That was one of those lactation consultants that failed at absolutely everything else she tried.
Primates have been breastfeeding in the dark for millions of years, says Brad Young. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, Brad had an interesting comment just upstream from that. He says many people still conflate illegal with the immoral. I just wanted to recognize that comment.
They really do.
That is so right on. That is so completely... I mean, there are very few babies who will not drink breast milk. Now, some of them won't take the breast, and that just happens. There's a lot of theories, but nobody's sure why, because nobody's done a decent interview with a baby. The babies are not forthcoming. Their English isn't as good as it's going to be. So they can't tell us why they're not doing it, but they don't. They won't latch on. They won't do it. And you give them a bottle and they just go to town.
Oh, luckily my aunt came down and helped me, and Pincalo's sister came and helped me.
Yeah.
And I breastfed Alex for 22 months.
Yeah.
So it was probably just stress, first of all, because I was being questioned on my ability to parent my son because I was blind.
Yeah. And
they, the nurses.
Isn't that ironic that they end up causing you more stress than is warranted in the first place?
Well, and they wouldn't speak to me. They would only speak to Pincalo and my mother, and Pincalo and my mother kept going, talk to her.
So were you ever just tempted to say, "Hey, I'm right here"?
I think if I hadn't been so exhausted,
Yeah.
I probably would have.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just so flippin' exhausting having like giving birth. You're just like, I don't have the energy to be my normal, ridiculously
Yeah.
quippy self.
Yeah, you need to rest for one thing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a tremendous physical effort. That's another thing that I wonder if that lactation consultant had kids of her own. I wonder how many lactation consultants, quote unquote, have no children, have no personal
I
experience.
know, right?
And they have no clue what that's like. People who've never had kids, or people who've never been parents, basically, they don't know that the wear and tear that a pregnancy does on a woman. That's hard on a woman. I mean,
Yeah.
that it's good that we have them when they're young, because if in your 60s, you probably wouldn't even survive half the pregnancies. It just beats up a woman's body. It
It
just
does.
does. It beats the shit out of you. And you deliver this baby, and it's just a huge, very emotional, obviously, event. But it's a big stress change. You've been under all this physical stress, and suddenly you're not under that physical stress anymore. And your body has to kind of heal from a pregnancy. It's something that you have to recover from, and get back to being your normal self. It affects almost every system of your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you have to be close to it, and you experience it firsthand to really understand, what that does. And some bored bureaucrat who has a bunch of canned answers to, and what they do for a living is they trot out all these canned answers. If you're confronted with this situation, say this. They're like trained dogs. Dogs trained to bark a certain way. That's really all they are. I mean, I hold with that analogy through a lot of things in life. I think many people in many occupations are nothing more than trained dogs. When you see this, bark this way. When you see this, bark this way. That's all they do, and they do it with no more intellectual involvement than a dog who's been trained to bark a certain way.
Piccolo a couple of minutes ago said this was with our first kid too, and it's funny because we since found out that they treat pot the same as cigarettes and alcohol with pregnancy, even though they're completely chemically different.
Well, yeah. First of all, okay, let's talk about THC just for a moment. THC, the chemical, is not very soluble in water. In fact, it's just barely soluble in water at all. It doesn't bind to anything but fats. Okay, that's the way that's. Now, what does this mean? Well, that's why it has an affinity for your brain. Your brain has a lot of fat in it, believe it or not. Your brain it does a lot of things up there, a lot of good things that have to do with keeping the nerves and the lining of the nerves in good shape. Fat has an important role to play in your brain, but THC heads for places where the fat is. It heads, and that's why it heads for your brain, and that's why it does its magic in your brain. Is because what it's doing is it's binding to fats up there. Now, in order for things to cross the barrier, okay, between baby and mom, they have to be dissolved in, wait for it, water.
Yeah.
But THC doesn't dissolve in water.
No, it does not.
So baby doesn't get THC. Okay. because the THC is bound up in mom. So, it never gets to, you're not injecting pot into your veins. All right. That's not how it gets there.
No.
And the way that it gets to your brain is it's leached off of the carriers in your bloodstream, the way that it's carried in your bloodstream. It gets up there, but it does not cross the placental barrier, as it's called. It does not make it its way into the placenta and thereby into the baby. It's just not soluble enough in water for any amount of it, and I mean even micrograms, not even micrograms get in there. So pot is completely different from alcohol, which is so soluble in water. That's how we mix it to make it taste decent enough to pour that poison into us.
Yeah.
That's it. We flavor it with all kinds of things, and we dissolve those things in water. We put the alcohol in the water. Alcohol loves water. It's a very friendly drug to water, and a very friendly poison to water, and they just truck around together, and it'll jump right into the placenta and into the baby.
Same with nicotine.
And nicotine to a lesser extent, but yes, it absolutely will. Nicotinic acid is much more soluble. It's like 40% soluble in water, and it absolutely will go to it. And so will a number of other drugs, but THC is not one of them. I just thought you would. Sorry about the chemistry lesson. I just had to go off there. It just pisses me off that people, they act like superstitious apes about THC. And it's time that we all got a little bit sensible about it. And let's move forward into the new century and admit that we understand stuff and not pretend like the movie Reefer Madness is real. We used to show Reefer Madness at my fraternity house every once in a while. Oh, it was so funny because what do you think we were doing?
Smoking pot,
of course, and drinking beer.
The minute somebody would put on Reefer Madness, I would want to smoke a freaking joint.
It was like everybody got their joints rolled because we're going to turn off the lights and get the movie started. And it was about a 3-joint movie, as I remember, and we happily passed the joints around, and just unbelievable sharing of germs back then too. Passing the cigarette around from person to person.
I remember doing that as a teenager.
People don't understand. People smoking pot today have no idea how smoking pot was back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. It was a different thing, and you didn't even think twice. Somebody offered you a joint, hell yeah, thank you.
People today, people do weird shit today. There was somebody that used to come and, he tried to use my apartment as a place to just sit and smoke, and I didn't put up with that for very long, because he would just come over, put his headphones on, and smoke his own pot, and not interact with people, not share with people, not anything. Yeah. And he would use my smoking devices. And one day, I find this kid mixing tobacco with his pot. And he went to smoke a tobacco pot mixed bowl in my 2.5-foot red double blown glass bong.
Oh no, that'll trash it.
He got one out of it because he was doing one of those popper bowl, a small.
Yeah.
He got one, and I smelled the tobacco. Yep. And I'm like, you better dump that water out. You go wash that bong out right now. You're not touching it again.
Yep.
Bring your own piece of shit smoking device if you're gonna put tobacco in with your pot. Don't mess up my bongs.
Here on the coffee stream, we talk about bong etiquette. We're in the bong etiquette section of the stream. We tackle the tough subjects here. We're not afraid of anything. Oh my goodness. So, unholy Mole says, no room for Bogarts around me.
Nope.
Remember that song, Don't Bogart That Joint, my friend?
Yep. I remember that.
Bogart that joint, my friend. Pass it over to me. Let's have another one just like the other one.
Well, yeah. I've got 10 after 11, guys. Let's go till...
This has been a fun hour, hasn't it?
I agree. Let's go till 11:20, because then I got to get ready for my orientation and mobility lesson.
All right.
So if anyone's
I'm going to kind of roll up through chat and see.
Yeah, if anyone's got comments or questions or...
Let's see. We also got extremely lucky because Blinds and is a doula and a lactation specialist, but she's all the way up in
Ottawa.
Ottawa. That's why we couldn't keep her. Okay.
Yeah, she came down when I was trying to get Alex to breastfeed, because I almost got mastitis.
Oh, really?
Because he wasn't latching properly, and I couldn't express and pump enough of the milk out.
Yeah.
So I almost had mastitis.
Oh man.
And she took a Greyhound. Like, I called her to just get some advice. And she was on a Greyhound the next day. And she came and stayed with us for almost a week.
Wow. Awesome.
She got, like, and she's got, at the time, she had 3 children. She has 4 now. But she had 3 children of her own, and she basically made arrangements, and off she came.
Wow. Now, Pinkalo is talking about saying that you had a lump in your breast?
Yeah, I did, because it was that bad. Like, the clog was so bad.
Like a cystic mass. It was a fluid mass.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was so bad. Like,
did it hurt like hell?
Yeah, it was scary, and it was very painful.
Sure.
Oh no, Pinkalo has to drive to downtown Toronto. Oh God.
I want to cry. I got to drive to downtown Toronto. Please help. I understand. I feel your pain. Pick your time. And let's see. Brad Young says, I do like the new co-host. Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. I'm just here to hang with my friend Blind and see what trouble we can stir up. Let's see. Hawk Silk says, drugs are not for me, but each to their own. Only argument I would use is moderation. I agree with you, Hawk. That's Hawk Silk.
Unholy Mole says, is the traffic horrible there, Pinkalo? I'll answer, because Pinkalo might have to dictate, and Google might not dictate properly, because it does that. Toronto traffic is flippin' ridiculous. It's stop, go, stop. I would say it's probably, like, nothing compares to New York City. But
there's actually worse traffic than New York City.
Toronto drivers think they're New York drivers.
Mm-hmm.
They love their horns.
Yep.
They just, every time I talk to Pinkalo, he's always yelling about learn to merge, or learn to signal, or he's dealing with cabbies and Uber drivers, especially in Toronto, that just don't know or don't care to know the rules of the road.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the more and more immigrants that we have here, the more and more horrible driving we see.
Right.
I don't understand why.
And the problem is, people coming in, they don't have a lot of money. They buy junker cars that break down on the highway. That makes the traffic even worse. I mean, that sounds cruel, and I don't mean to, but yeah, in point of fact, inviting an underclass into your country is not a great prescription for great living. it just messes up every system. It puts stress on every system. They come in, they have different cultural habits. They want to stick to themselves, except when they are taking your stuff, or raping your women, or grooming your children, or doing whatever the hell it is they do. I know that sounds ignorant and backwoodsy, but in point of fact, there's something to be said for careful assimilation.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to bring in people who want to assimilate, who want to become a part of your culture. This whole thing, I think other cultures are wonderful. Let's invite them in and be a diverse salad, of cultures. That doesn't work.
No.
You end up with balkanized communities that don't trust one another, who don't communicate very well, and society doesn't work very well. Society works better when you have a homogeneous culture. It can certainly have different points of emphasis in it, but you have to have a thick binding culture to keep your country together. If you don't do that, your country will balkanize. It'll fall apart, and eventually some of the critical parts will begin to slip apart. And you can have something like what's happening in California in the United States now, where California has it's begun to consider itself separate from the United States. And something I really think you'll see this in your lifetime, maybe not in my lifetime, but in your lifetime. You'll see California divided at least into Northern and Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
and in some fashion. And it's actually going to be something more like coastal California from Los Angeles to San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of California, or possibly into three parts where there's a Northern California north of San Francisco. There's San Francisco, there's coastal San Francisco to Los Angeles, and halfway in, and then the rest of California, which is the farming part of California.
Yeah.
Because it's become so balkanized and so controlled by different groups of people who are antagonistic to each other and won't talk. It's a huge problem. I don't know what to do about it. Well, I do know what to do about it, but nobody likes my ideas.
God damn, Costin. He says a buddy of mine went to Toronto via Mississauga, where he moved. 2 hours for just that last 29 kilometers of the journey. Yeah, that sounds right.
I totally believe that. Yeah.
That sounds absolutely right.
That's bad. 2 hours for less than for basically 15 miles.
Yeah.
Is 16 miles that's terrible. That's disgusting.
It's awful.
Man, it's that's like Atlanta level traffic. The worst traffic I've ever encountered in the world, and I have driven in a number of places. I've driven in Singapore and London and Belgium, but the worst traffic I've ever encountered is Florence, Italy.
I thought you were going to say France, honestly.
No, France, believe it or not, is when you're around Paris, there's a lot of traffic. Nice is the same way, but the worst traffic I've ever seen was in Florence, where the freeways stop, and when they stop, people turn off the engines to their car and get out and talk with each other. You have to see it to believe it. They even will walk over and urinate by the side of the road. And nobody even thinks anything about this. Italy's a different kind of place. It's awesome.
Pincalo says, "Scap, Toronto traffic makes Atlanta look like DC."
Really? Well, DC has terrible traffic. DC has disgusting traffic, especially toward the suburbs, the Virginia suburbs. But it's just in spots. I don't think it's. I have heard that Toronto traffic is absolutely hideous. That the roads are so underbuilt that it's. See you on Homo. Thanks for stopping by.
See you later on Holy Mole. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Florence, it was just kind of amazing. And then when you get into town, you sit in traffic and you won't move. And I mean, you will not move an inch for 15 minutes. And then you'll move up a car length. It will take you 2 hours to go 3 blocks.
That's terrifying and annoying at the same time.
It is literally a locked grid. It is literally a locked grid. And the reason is because they have the old narrow streets.
Yeah.
And at strange angles to each other. And it's, it's like one of those puzzles that has tiles everywhere except for one square, and you have to make the pattern.
Yep.
Everybody's trying to make a different pattern all at the same time. It is absolutely the worst traffic I've ever found. And I remember we stayed, me and 28 of my best friends did a 6-week tour of Europe in 1997. And we were turning in our rental cars at Florence. And they said, be sure and get to town 3 hours before you have to turn into your car. It was 3 hours. Why? Because it will take you 2 hours to get from the edge of town to the center of town, which is where the rental place was, where we had to turn in the cars. And you know what? It took like 1 hour and 45 minutes. It really did.
Wow.
And it was me and 28 members of my family all did a tour of Wales, Belgium, France, Italy, and Switzerland for 6 weeks in 1997. Just decided to have a big ass family vacation. Cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody. And my mom and dad were there. It was an amazing time. Both my kids got to go, and it was big fun. But man, coming home, that was that was electrifying. That was amazing. So anyway, how I do go on? It's 11:23 your time, isn't it?
Yep.
Or 11:28, 11:23.
Yeah, 11:23.
Time for us to tootle along.
It is indeed. And,
thank you for having me back. I hope I'm not getting on your nerves being on the show like this.
No, I'm having fun, and I'm thank you everyone for coming and listening to us talk about blindness and news and pot, all the things that we spoke about today. Tomorrow is Friday, so we've got the coffee stream, and depending on whether or not I've gotten all my chores done in a reasonable time, since I don't, and I also have to go back and get my tuberculosis test read tomorrow. But after that, I may do a stream on Blind and Special because I don't have to pick up Alex from school tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that'll be fun. Let me just show for WR Costin one more time.
Yes.
Costin stream is at 2 p.m. on WR Costin's channel, and that's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check him out. He's going to be covering some very interesting stuff.
Yeah, it should be a good stream. I'm going to listen in as well. So that's 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central on the WR Costin channel. And hope you guys go check that out. Please do.
And well, thanks for having me on again. It's a wonderful day. Thank you, chat, for being there. And love hearing what you have to say, and I love the way the chat participates in this stream. Don't you?
I do too. And you guys are awesome. Your interactions are great. I love it, and I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you guys back here tomorrow. And again, don't forget about the Star Trek stream on Saturday night with the usual gang plus Unhomo this week.
And what's it going to be on?
we're doing Future's End from Voyager season 3, episodes 8 and 9.
Right on. So be there or be square. We're gonna have some fun.
All right. Well,
see you guys tomorrow.
For sure. And have a great day, guys. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow.
Be careful out there.